This is the Glenn Beck Program.
Well, hello, America, and welcome to the Glenn Beck Program and to The Blaze. This is the network that you are building. Welcome to Fat Tuesday, or as I like to call it, Tuesday. Tonight, the president is giving the State of the Union, and I can't wait to see it. Actually, unfortunately for me, I scheduled a CAT scan or an MRI. I absolutely don't need it. I was just like, give me one of those things. I think for me to forget, I was thinking about watching Dr. Zhivago because that's painful, but not quite painful enough to make me forget the moron that's going to be on TV tonight telling us exactly what's going on. So I thought if they would shove me in some sort of claustrophobic tube and tell me not to move, that I would enjoy so much more than the State of the Union. So that's what I'm doing tonight. I know what he's going to say. He's going to say, the rich are not paying their fair share, and we need to make things more equal, and trophies for all the losers, and we need to work on infrastructure. Didn't we do that? Don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain. We need to build more bridges and roads because they're decaying. But didn't we do that in the first time? Pay no attention to that. And of course, healthcare, and now gun control, which goes right in with healthcare, because there's a lot of crazy people with guns, you know. And we got to make sure they're not crazy and have guns. And the media, like a little kitty cat at a bowl of milk, they'll lap it up. Given their obsession with the banning of private ownership of guns, they're going to love tonight. Just before we went live, by the way, news broke that Christopher Dorner, the accused cop killer and triple murderer who's been running loose in California, was in a shootout with federal authorities in Big Bear area of California. The shootout started after Dorner reportedly burglarized a home, tied up a couple, and stole their car. Well, I wish they had guns. Oh, that was wrong of me to say. Jesus wouldn't have said that. That's right, I'm not Jesus. 2 officers were wounded, and he's now pinned down by cops. It's only a matter of time. What's incredible about this story to me is that Christopher Dorner had not become the poster child for gun control. Isn't that strange? His face should be plastered everywhere, all day long. This is such a great story for the media. They would love this. Think of this. If I'm standing in a newsroom with a whole bunch of progressives and I say, guys, listen to this. I got a guy, former military, a former cop. He's an expert marksman. They taught him how to kill, okay? And he's killed people with a gun. The president next week is going to be doing all this gun control thing. And to get you into this car today, here's what I'm going to offer you, because that's not interesting enough. He's also been on the run now for 2 weeks, and he knows how to fly a plane. He just bought scuba gear and tried to steal a boat. Authorities raided a hotel in Tijuana because he might have been living there. This is an international man of mystery. And now, here at the end, he's engaged in a gun battle with police. Does it get any better? Wait, yes, there's more. If you act now on this story, media, you'll also get the manifesto filled with crazy thoughts for everybody to read. This story is the roots of our generation. It's a 24/7 liberal news media heaven, and they all cheer, oh, we've got the guns now. And yet they treated it just as a passing story. Why? Why is that? What is making the media all of a sudden exercise restraint? Has ABC banned Brian Ross from using Google? I don't know. No, trust me, they've used Google and they've looked. Maybe that's what it is. Tonight's program, I'm going to show you some things that you don't see on the regular TV, boob tube. Some of the things the media refuses to show you. Why? It's important for you to know these things that I'm going to show you in the next 30 minutes. Because they're not. They're not showing you. We're not hearing about Dorner's background or what's in that creepy manifesto. Because Dorner is not a Tea Partier. Total buzzkill, man. We were there. Now we got to go back to smoking dope and making things up about people on the right. But you shouldn't be surprised. See, we're not surprised. They are, but we're not. Which should be the opposite way, because this is their guy. A quick look at any kind of history shows the most notorious assassins in America have one common thread. But you see, you don't learn this in universities anymore because they're all progressives. They're all leftists. You're not going to learn this in journalism school about actual facts. Let's look at some of the greatest assassins, if you will, of American history. We're going to find that, sure, there's some crazy people, because remember, we've got to check people's health care. Doctors, talk to us, because if they have guns and they're crazy, out of control mayhem. What happens? Well, the guy that killed President Garfield, he was nuts. He killed President Garfield because he was upset that he didn't get the ambassadorship in Paris. That's why he killed the president. Then there was John Hinckley. He tried to kill Ronald Reagan. I mean, I think the psych evaluation stops here. Why did you do it? I was trying to impress Jodie Foster because I want her to be my girlfriend. Okay, she's a lesbian, you're crazy. Then there was James Earl Ray, racist. Okay, so now I've got the media story. Those are the murderers, those are the assassins, those are the killers. Be on the lookout. Hello, America. Mainstream media reporting tonight, racists and crazy people can't have any guns. Ignore all other potential threats and make sure that we have crazy people and racists without guns, because those are the people we need to watch closely, because nothing else happens besides those guys. Unless you actually look at history. Like McKinley's assassin, a Marxist. How about in 1919, the series of mail bombs sent to politicians and journalists and businessmen? Oh, yeah, anarchists. Lee Harvey Oswald, do you remember him? Communist. Thomas Hagen, member of the Nation of Islam. I thought that was a religion of peace. Murdered Malcolm X. Why? Because he left the religion of peace, of course. Then there was Sirhan Sirhan. He's the guy who killed Robert F. Kennedy. Well, because he supported Israel, and he thought that was wrong, so he had to kill. I mean, you're going to kill a Zionist, right? I mean, right? Of course, then there was the violent riots of the 1930s that we kind of gloss over that were pretty big. They were organized by the unemployed councils. Who were the unemployed councils? You got it. Mass organization of the Communist Party USA. And of course, we all know about the violent radical left movement of the 1960s that are currently, these are the people that are actually currently teaching in universities. Bill Ayers and Bernadine Dorn, targeting police and government buildings, setting off bombs and causing destruction. This is the pattern throughout American history. Whenever the radical left feels like they're very close to getting the oppressive government that they want, they try to shove the American people over the edge. And it's the same people, the same conditions, the same hatred, the same complaints. America is the aggressor. We have to have more equality. Islam is the only way. Brace yourself. Because the only thing we haven't seen from the 1960s is the outbreak of violence. When I was on Fox, we talked a lot about this. Recreate 1968. Recreate 68. Frances Fox Piven saw the Watts riots in the 1960s and said, that's the way to do it. And she actually is on the record now, we have her on tape, saying she wants more of these. By the way, she's just another one of those crazy old grandmothers that are just baking pies and teaching our kids at the universities to do things like this. Just for your information, 34 people died during those riots. Now, where I have been wrong on this whole violence thing is I thought violence would come this last summer, and I thought it would come from Occupy Wall Street. And I'd been saying that for about 2 years, and I was wrong. And I can't figure it out. It doesn't quite fit. Someday, I'm sure some historian, who will be shunned by all the other historians, will figure this out and put it all together. But I don't know why it didn't happen this last summer. And Occupy Wall Street, why they were as peaceful as they were. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, they did try to blow up a bridge in Ohio. These guys did. Who would have seen these guys were trouble? Then they had this occupier who threatened to blow up the Fort Myers Police Department. He was good. And then 3 occupiers from Occupy Portland were arrested with homemade explosives in their car. So I was only kind of wrong. They tried it, but they're losers. And it didn't cause the government to go all top down because the bottom was rising up. But believe me, they will keep trying. What we should be looking for, unfortunately, are these kinds of people, leftists. There are very few of us that are willing to tell the truth, especially in the media. And you have to ask why? Why, since the evidence is so overwhelming. And the story of this LA shooter is riveting. Cop killer Chris Dorner. Why is it that virtually no television segment with him or about him, when he gets a television segment, ever mentions his manifesto? That's amazing. I mean, sure, it's really long, but so is the health care bill. And it is a little crazy, but then again, so is the health care bill. But it's hard for the media to make him a stereotypical right-wing gun nut when he writes things like this. Well, if you had a well-regulated automatic weapons ban, this wouldn't happen. The time now is to reinstitute a ban that would save lives. Now, here's a guy shooting people saying how you can save lives. Why does any sportsman need 30-round magazine for hunting? Why does anyone need a suppressor? Why does anyone need an AR-15 rifle, huh? In the end, he writes, I hope that you will realize that the small arms I utilize shouldn't be accessed with the same ease that I obtain them. We're going from rifles now to handguns. Who in their right mind needs an effing silencer? Who needs a freaking SBR AR-15? No one. No more Virginia Tech, Columbine, Wisconsin Temple, Aurora Theater, Portland Malls, Tucson Rally, Newtown Sandy Hook. Whether by executive order or through a bipartisan Congress, an assault weapons ban needs to be reinstituted, period. And I'm crazy. By the way, Senator Feinstein, you are doing the right thing in leading the reinstitution of a national law. I like to get my tips on what laws we should pass from killers. By the way, he also gave a shout out to Piers Morgan, the guy that nobody watches on CNN. Did I tell you we have more subscribers to The Blaze than CNN has viewers? Weird, isn't it? I want you to know that I agree with you 100% on enacting stricter firearm laws. That's good. And a host of other celebrities in a bizarre series of statements, obviously written because he thought he would be famous. But he made the mistake of agreeing with liberals instead of conservatives on his shout-out list. So the media is silent. I can't make him famous because it hurts their agenda. Remember? If he was saying these things and saying, I'm a conservative, he'd be super famous. Remember, the media blamed Gabby Gifford's shooting on the target map made by Sarah Palin, which actually led to CNN host apologizing for the word target on the air. And someday I'll tell you the whole story about what happened behind the scenes in the media. Let's remember, however, it was this guy, Jared Loughner. I mean, do we need a crazy test for this guy? He walks into your office and you're like, okay, Jared, no job for you because you're crazy. Look at him. But beyond being crazy, his college friends described him as a left-wing guy. Wow. So they blame it on Sarah Palin, not the crazy left-winger. That's weird. The restraint is astounding this time around. There's no connections, no Brian Ross, Dorner and Tea Party Google searches, no apologies or new tone, just silence. There's a shootout in California. Shh. The worst part of this entire story is that the left is actually supporting Dorner. Now, how is that possible? Can you imagine? Here's another fascinating story. Remember, I'm in the newsroom with all the progressives, and the killer is actually starting to gain support from the Tea Party. They've got websites up. We should do specials for weeks on this. Except it's not Tea Parties, it's the progressive people. We know, as we have seen, they despise the police. We saw that at Occupy and in leftist support for cop killers such as Mumia Abu-Jamal. A large part of Dorner's manifesto is hatred for the police. Now there's a Facebook page created to honor and support Dorner. Has thousands of likes, encourages him to run for president. Well, why not? Let's put more crazy people in there. There's a second Facebook page that says, we're all Chris Dorner, with comments like, yeah, this is war. Hang on, let's listen for the media. Let's listen for the president. Let's listen for the Republicans. Oh, wait, do I hear the Republicans? Radical progressives look for the disenfranchised and they stir them up to violence, and you can expect more. Hey, here's another story that happened this weekend that you really haven't heard on the news. It's crazy. Federal agents arrest a man after he attempts to blow up a bank with a car bomb. This is an incredible story. His name is Matthew Aaron Yaniza. Late last week, he was arrested near the Bank of America branch in California. Minutes earlier, he parked an SUV in front of the bank, believing that the vehicle contained an explosive rigged to detonate from a cell phone command. So he went around the corner and boop, 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 boop. I think it was 7. Boop. It didn't detonate. It failed. He's a domestic terrorist who... Hey, but progressives, we got a guy in, he's going to blow up the bank. He's got it. The FBI's been watching him, and he's a Tea Partier, right? Let's do specials. No, wait. Before we start special, one minor change. He's a recent convert to Islam. The religion of peace? Well, that must be. I don't understand. Yeah, he was working with the Taliban. He'd been kicked out of the Marine Corps. And the media didn't do much of anything on him. Why is that? Because there's more to the story than just he's a domestic terrorist, madman, white guy. As the Blaze reported, he had hoped the bombing would be blamed on anti-government activists, the Tea Party. And he would somehow or another spark a civil war after, get this, a severe government crackdown, because the bottom was rising up and he knew the top would have to come down. America, we are headed towards that tipping point, and the media is ignoring it because of the agenda. But you must not. You must get the facts. You must be able to trust the source of these facts. You don't need any conspiracy theories. There are a lot of crazy people out there on the left that want anarchy. They want the top to come down. And it will work unless we educate each other, unless you know these stories. And by the way, they want to desperately paint the right as violent, but the trends seem to suggest that the left wants violence. We just showed you a couple here. We showed you history. Oh yeah, in line with leftist ideology, but there are many others that have happened in just the last couple of years. And it's important that you know them and spread them to your friends, because that's the only way. If something happens and they're like, okay, the Tea Partiers are out of control, you and all your friends will say, no. What about all of these? I'm going to show them to you, and it'll really blow your mind next. It's important for you to know this information so somebody has it. The administration has warned about right-wing extremism on the rise, and I'm telling you, he's going to make a big deal out of guns, and we have to take guns off. Why? Why would he do that? The media has desperately tried to link Tea Partiers to violence, but no avail. And they're trying to confirm what they believe or what they need you to believe, and not the actual facts on the ground. The actual people involved in the violence are not on the right, most times. We showed you history in this last segment, but now let me show you recent history. All these things happened since President Obama, I'm thinking I was going to get fined here because of the radio show, but I can say it on this show. Since Obama was in office, Floyd Lee Corkins II. Now, this is the guy who is the Chick-fil-A terrorist. He pleaded guilty last week to shooting a security guard at the conservative lobbying group, the Family Research Council in Washington, D.C. And he said that when he opened fire this last August in the lobby of the council's offices, he intended to kill as many people as possible. After Corkins' arrest, police discovered in a bag of his a handwritten note with the names and addresses of the Family Research Council and 3 other conservative organizations that he was going to kill people at. The council opposes gay marriage, but the bag also contained 2 loaded magazines and 15 Chick-fil-A sandwiches, which Corkins said in the note he planned to smother into the faces of the people he planned to kill. Oh, and by the way, he was also a big fan of liberal blog sites. He said that the Family Research Council was an anti-gay organization, and he knew because he visited the Southern Poverty Law website. This is the same website that says a very dangerous man is, of course, David Barton, one of the nicest guys I've ever met. Now, when this happened, this didn't call for any, nobody was like, we need a new tone in Washington. Nobody even covered all of this. The things that he did, the things that he said, there you go. Anybody who was honest would report on it. But before you know it, we'll see things like this. Because the media is going to paint the right into monsters. Because look at what they have. The leftist environmentalist, James Lee. Remember this? This is a guy who took 4 hostages, was at the Discovery Channel, and had a 4-hour standoff before being shot dead by the police. He had a little manifesto too. And in the manifesto, it said the Discovery Channel must broadcast to the world their commitment to save the planet. Saving the planet means saving what's left of the non-human wildlife by decreasing the human population. That means stopping the human race from breeding any more disgusting human babies. Oh my. You're in the media. You can reach enough people. It's your responsibility because you reach so many minds. Develop shows that will correct and dismantle the dangerous U.S. world economy. How many leftists, how many people, how many professors, how many people are being taught this kind of garbage? Then there was Joseph Andrew Stack. He's a guy really early on in this administration, smashed a small aircraft into an office building where nearly 200 employees of the Internal Revenue Service were starting their workday. The press quickly jumped to paint him as anti-government, probably a Ron Paul kind of guy, but omitted his big final point in the manifesto, something I don't think I've heard Ron Paul say, the communist creed. Quote, from each according to his ability to each according to his need. The capitalist creed, from each according to his gullibility to each according to his greed. That sounds suspiciously like Mao. Not a small government free market guy. Then there was Maurice Schwenkler. Hello, Maurice. Late August 2009, lawmakers faced citizen revolts at healthcare town halls nationwide. And of course, those crazy Tea Partiers got out of control again. See his picture? Her? Her. Democratic Party of Colorado. They saw this window smash and they said somebody went at vandalism. That's what the Denver headquarters of the DNC. The state party chair singled out Tea Party activists, blamed people who are opposed to health care for the attack. But put up the picture of he, she again. It ended up being this this person. Perpetrator turned out to be a far-left transgender activist single-payer person who is also an anarchist. Oh, who also worked for a labor union-tied political committee and canvassed for a Democratic candidate. But other than that, that person is a Tea Partier. And then there was James Von Brunn. He's 89 years old. He likes white people and really nobody else, especially them Jews. He's a Holocaust denier who gunned down a security guard at the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C. Once again, the media was right there. Pin this guy onto the right. This guy is a Holocaust denier. He's killing Jews, and he's a white supremacist. Except he cited the Obama administration's report on right-wing extremism leading to a wider chorus of condemnation against the Tea Party and talk radio and the entire GOP. But he was actually a 9/11 truther, and he pretty much hated Jews and Christians, and George W. Bush and Fox News. But other than that, he was, he also threatened the conservative Weekly Standard magazine. But other than that, he's a Tea Partier. America, I'm telling you this now because you kind of forget how much evidence there is and who we should be looking at. When you hear the nonsense coming from the president tonight about guns and how the violence is, know this. There's a lot of violence out there. You know, the guy dressed as the Joker, where'd that come from? Oh yeah, that's right, he was imitating Hollywood. That's weird. That's weird. Progressives want the government to drop the hammer down and control us. And they will and have done anything to have that happen. It is important that you know this information and spread this information to everyone you know. America needs to know the truth because at some point something will happen with someone and the top will come down. Who will be blamed? Will the people know the truth? The federal government cracking down on private gun ownership at a time like this, leaving you defenseless. At a time when the police in Chicago are saying that we can't handle the calls. If you have a burglary, don't call 911. Cherry Hill, New Jersey, they've disbanded the police department. The president should get on today and say, look, we're a nation that's in trouble and we're going to make it. And I don't want to freak anybody out, but you know what? You have to be responsible. You have to be the first responder. And there are dangerous people in our country. There are people that want to see us overthrown. They're both on the right and the left, mainly on the left, but there's a handful of those who actually believe that revolution is a good idea. It's a dangerous combination. It's a dangerous path. You have to be the first responder. You have to prepare yourself for any eventuality and go get yourself. Don't run out and get a gun. Get yourself a couple of gun classes or self-defense classes. Then, after you've taken that, you really know you're responsible enough, go get yourself a gun. Or just do, I don't know, karate chop. I don't know. But you're the first responder. Back in a minute. The date was May 2nd, 2011. President Obama announced that Osama bin Laden was shot and killed in a speech so self-promoting that it seems the only thing he didn't take credit for was pulling the actual trigger, but he wouldn't have done that because he doesn't like guns. This week, Esquire magazine did an interview with the Navy SEAL, the member who claims he did pull the trigger on bin Laden. Before I tell you this whole story, I want to make this really clear. I want to clear up some facts surrounding the interview. First, I want to lead with the fact that former SEALs are eligible for at least 5 years of free health care. That's big of us, huh? They can get it through the Veterans Health Administration, the VA, which is sweet. But in the story, the journalist quotes the SEAL who said he was told to go F himself when he returned home from his last tour when he tried to get the health care benefits. Unfortunately, the well-being of America's heroes has never really been a concern of the media or, quite frankly, the government. And this story is no different. The Washington Post saw the original story, ignored all the facts, instead saw it as a golden opportunity to further a progressive agenda. They didn't hesitate to offer their remedy for the fact that so many veterans don't have health insurance. They write, quote, while 1.3 million veterans are left without health care benefits, alongside 0.9 million members of their families, the Affordable Care Act could change all of that. Those without VA coverage will qualify for Medicaid or health insurance in 2014. So let me see if I have this right. In other words, the government health care that is failing them will be covered with another government health care program. And this one will solve all of our country's problems. It's so astounding to me how people can actually think this way and not look at themselves in the mirror and just go, how do you do it? And how they can even turn America's bravest warriors, the men who put bullets into Osama bin Laden's head, how they can take those guys and turn them into victims. See, not even this capable man is capable of taking care of himself. He needs us to help him. The truth is, these guys do come home battered by war, scarred both physically and mentally. Some of them are forced to live in secrecy under constant threat of assault on their family. Some can't sleep, haunted by nightmares of all the war's unthinkable horrors. They're riddled with anxiety. Some become depressed. Some of them are just only anxious because they're used to being in a team. And they're alone. It's like they've been programmed to be a team. And now we separate them and say, okay, guys, we're done with you. Beat it. It was later revealed that bin Laden's shooter was eligible for VA benefits, but he didn't know how to get them. It's called red tape. So many of our veterans don't know how to adapt to civilian life and all of the red tape. Here are the best guys in the world, the best minds in the world. They're on top of the pyramid. They could build companies if they wanted to, contrary to the President of the United States. He didn't devise the operational tactics instituted in Afghanistan. They did. They can do anything they put their minds to. Can you imagine what it must be like to be somebody who put that operation together, and now you're at some tourist trap, you know, teaching morons, you know, how to swim or whatever, and sitting in an insulting meeting and have somebody sitting around saying, you know, I'm not sure you're cutting it here. Really? You don't? I don't know how to do your little club thing. How demeaning. They're smart. But even the red tape that you will soon experience through Obamacare is stopping them from getting their health care benefits. These guys do need help. They do. They need help transitioning, but not from people who want to abuse them to gain more power, but from those who recognize these men as the nation's finest, men who have put their lives on the line every day to secure our freedom. So, while, yes, Obama has called them the best of the best, and Vice President Biden has referred to them as the finest warriors in the history of the world, actions speak louder than words, and their actions have confirmed a complete lack of commitment to the patriots in our military. On the other hand, your simple actions, America, paint a much brighter picture. And I think it's the way things are supposed to be done. Together with Mercury One, you have raised more than $600,000 for the family of former Navy SEAL Chris Kyle and his foundation, Fitco Cares Heroes Project. That's over. Our first goal was $100,000, and our second goal was $500,000. I would like to get to $1 million, but I haven't seen how much the book is raising. We have the book that we were auctioning off, and that's at glennbeck.com, signed by him, and I included my funeral, my tag, and also the, what do you call it, the brochure or the program for the funeral. One of a kind, and that's up for auction. I think that ends tomorrow. You can find all of it at glennbeck.com. The t-shirts we made for the SEALs to help raise money. We could, if we keep this up, in the next couple of days we could make that number $1 million. Now, do we do the same for the SEAL who shot bin Laden? And then the next SEAL, and the next SEAL, and the next SEAL. I don't want to prop the SEALs up. They're strong, capable people. And I don't want to do it, whoever's in the media, one at a time. Because there's a lot of SEALs that none of us will ever know their names. I remember the first time I met a Navy SEAL, he was about this tall, and he was wearing a SEAL pin, and he looked like a grandfather, and I said, so is your son or your grandson a Navy SEAL? And he said, I am. I take them the last couple of weeks for Hell Week. Okay, you're going to kill me now. These are capable men, and there are millions like that guy who you'd never heard of that deserve our attention. They need help. But we need to take care of the high visibility veterans so we can get enough awareness for the faceless guys that nobody knows about. The Obama administration isn't going to do this. They can't. We have to be there for them. Whether we raise money ourselves or we just talk to our state and we get our states to get involved, I think that's the better answer. As I showed you last week, the kind of treatment you can get from the government if you're a veteran sucks. It's awful. It's making the problem of PTS much worse. In fact, post-traumatic stress is largely because of government health care, the red tape and the fact that this government just doesn't give a flying crap. That's largely the leading factor, I think, in the reason that Eddie Ray Routh shot Chris Kyle. So to suggest that more government health care is the solution is quite honestly profane and insulting. I want to show you another group of heroes the Obama administration and the media are ignoring. Let me show you the heroes on our border. Last month, the president of the National Immigration Council gave a press release saying that the Obama administration and the AFL-CIO have shunned them. Let me quote this amazing testimony. We went directly to this administration as well as to the AFL-CIO with real matters of life and death for unionized American law enforcement officers, and we were shunned. We're talking about 50,000 AFL-CIO affiliate members, union members. We asked both the AFL-CIO and the president for help with corruption within our respective federal law enforcement agencies. So think of this. They go to their unions and they go to the president in the White House and they say, we need help. There's corruption. Quoting still the following the White House meeting, our government is working against people trying to enter the country legally in favor of illegals. The people who make this country great are being silenced in favor of the onslaught and murder of our public officials. All of this, and we don't even get a chance to talk about cybersecurity as Obama attacks your constitutional freedoms to support an executive order. Wait until you see this. He's going to probably do this tomorrow, which could allow the president to collect all your personal information online. We also don't have the time to talk about really his State of the Union address, but I'm going to get a CAT scan or a bone x-ray of my foot or something. I can't take it. We also don't have time for the vice president saying that their gun control agenda is dependent on the legitimate media to help them push their agenda. If that makes me illegitimate, I've never been so proud to be a bastard. All of this shows us why we have to build an outside media source. We've tried really hard, with your help, to build something that is beholden to no one. If we get a story wrong, I take the blame. We need an outside media source that reports the news and tells the truth and doesn't engage in baseless conspiracy theories and doesn't change the news because of special interests, favors to friends, Saudi pressures, or banks. The government will treat the news just as it treats our soldiers. They already have. And they're going to get more in bed because the news media is dying. We seem to be thriving. Isn't that strange? If we want to survive, we have to do it ourselves. If we want our military to survive and our veterans to receive the care they've earned, it's going to be up to us as Americans, as individuals, neighbors, churches, and states. You have to find the things that empower you, things that interest you and empower you, and then become very good, become experts at them. Use them to empower your community, your street, and your state. We must stand for the things that are true and right and righteous. And if we do, America's future will be bright. It's been an incredible week or so. We really started last Sunday, a week ago Sunday. I got up and I was going to church, and my wife said, Marcus Luttrell emailed late last night. And I said, I'll call him when we get back from church. And our security agent said, sir, do you know about Chris Kyle? He was shot last night. I looked at my wife and I said, honey, I've got to call Marcus. Today, all down the road between Dallas and Austin, people gathered and lined the streets for a 20-mile procession carrying Chris Kyle's body to his final resting place. I wanted to put an end to this last really hard week by sharing my thoughts from yesterday's memorial service that I attended.
Last night, I took a moment at the end of the show to express my feelings about Chris Kyle's memorial service at Cowboy Stadium. I had mentioned some of the things that stood out to me, the heroes in attendance. Chris's wife, Taya, holding their 2 children. I went home and I went to bed with some of those memories. Actually, I laid there quite a while with my eyes wide open, holding Tanya's hand. And a deeper message set in. I found myself thanking God for a country built on redemption. The field was surrounded by 400 bikers with their long hair and their tattoos, each of them holding an American flag. Special ops guys, men who have had to pull the trigger, packed the floor of the stadium. Amazing grace. Randy Travis humbly took the stage, probably hoping that his current trial by public wouldn't detract from the moment. It didn't. Randy was broken and sincere. It was a room full of people that have had to have questioned their past. Symbols of redemption were everywhere. A flag, a family, a cross. They stood, ironically, under the biggest scoreboard in the world. Chris's life, although people want to do it, won't be measured by a scoreboard. Because how do you quantify valor? Instead, it'd be measured by a room full of true friends. Friends who knew Chris at his most violent and his most tender. It would be measured by a wife whom he cleaved to, who loved him in and out of battle. They freely joked about Chris's flaws, because that's how he treated their flaws, with mercy, with empathy. He laid on the 50-yard line in a flag-draped coffin, in the shadow of a little cross, having taken his place in the bigger picture of freedom and redemption, a place sung about 100 times in the battle hymn of the Republic. And Christ died to make men holy. Let us die to make men free, while God is marching on. Thank you, Chris.
Okay, I am so excited. Actually, for the State of the Union address, it's actually going to be pretty good. I wonder if the mainstream media or the pool cameras are actually going to cut away to Ted Nugent. He called me in the car yesterday and said, "What do you think? Thumbs up, thumbs down? Do I go?" And I'm like, big thumbs up. And then it's followed by our analysis. I think it's very interesting. You're seeing the next race, the next presidential race, play out tonight, because you're seeing Marco Rubio deliver the response for the GOP, and then you're seeing Rand Paul deliver for the Tea Party. That's interesting. We'll show you all the highlights. And we also have Jim Rogers here tomorrow to talk a little bit about, I don't know, the collapse of the Western way of life or whatever. That's on tomorrow's show. From Dallas, good night, America.